The 6888 is a powerful war drama that tells the true story of the 6,888th Central Postal Directory Battalion, the first all-black, all-female unit in the U.S. Army to serve overseas during World War II. The film follows Lena, a young woman driven by personal loss, and Major Charity Adams, the determined leader of the battalion, as they fight against racism, sexism, and impossible odds to ensure that millions of letters reach their intended recipients. The film starts by introducing two different, yet deeply connected stories that highlight the struggles of war beyond the battlefield. We see a mother in West Virginia who waits anxiously for any news about her two sons, who are serving in the military. She represents the millions of parents, spouses, and loved ones who had to live with constant fear and uncertainty during World War II. Every day, she hopes to receive a letter confirming that her sons are safe. The waiting itself becomes a silent battle, showing that war affects families just as much as it affects soldiers. This moment reminds us that war does not just happen on the front lines. It also takes place in the hearts and homes of those left behind. In Philadelphia, we meet Lena, a young black woman, and Abram, a Jewish man. They are childhood friends who have grown into something more, but their love is complicated by the prejudices of the time. In the 1940s, interracial relationships, especially between a black woman and a Jewish man, were frowned upon by society. Abram, knowing this, promises Lena's mother that when he returns from the war, he will court Lena properly, meaning he will ask for her hand in marriage in a way that her family and society will accept. This promise represents hope, the idea that even in difficult times, they can dream of a future together. Abram joins the war as a fighter pilot, a dangerous role that puts him directly in harm's way. He is killed in action, and Lena never gets to see him again. The relationship between Lena and Abram highlights how multiple forms of discrimination existed in 1940s America. As a black woman, Lena faces segregation, exclusion, and limited opportunities. Abram, as a Jewish man, faces prejudice and discrimination, even though many Jewish soldiers were fighting against the Nazis. Their relationship is a quiet act of defiance against a society that wants to keep them apart. By loving each other, they challenge the barriers set by race and religion. After Abram's death, Lena feels lost. The grief is overwhelming, but instead of letting it break her, she chooses to act. She enlists in the Women's Army Corps, determined to serve in any way she can. For her, joining the military is not just about helping in the war effort. It's about honoring Abram's memory and finding a new purpose. Lena boards a train heading to Fort Benning, Georgia, for basic training. She is not alone. Other black women are also enlisting, each with their own reasons for joining. Some are driven by patriotism, wanting to help their country win the war. Others see this as an opportunity for a better future, one that offers education and skills. Many, like Lena, are searching for meaning after personal losses. As they travel together, they start forming bonds of friendship. These friendships become a crucial source of support. The world may see them as black women first, but within their group, they see each other as sisters, soldiers, and equals. This moment highlights a key theme: strength in unity. When society isolates and limits people, community becomes a form of survival. At Fort Benning, the new recruits meet their commanding officers, Captain Charity Adams and Lieutenant Noel Campbell. Captain Adams is a trailblazer, the first black woman commissioned in the U.S. Army. She is strong, disciplined, and determined to see her battalion succeed. Lieutenant Campbell is her second in command, equally committed to ensuring these women are well-trained. Together, they push the recruits hard, drilling them in military procedures, discipline, and teamwork. The training is tough, but it makes them capable soldiers, proving that they are just as skilled as their white counterparts. Despite their hard work, the 6888 is not deployed immediately. Instead, they are forced to wait while the Army figures out what to do with them. This delay is not about their abilities. It is about their race and gender. The military does not see black women as real soldiers. Even though they are trained and ready, they are treated as an afterthought. The system is built to keep them in the background. The war is desperate for manpower, yet these women, willing and able to serve, are ignored. This delay is not just frustrating. It is a reminder that they have to fight thrice as hard to prove themselves. After months of being ignored, the 6,888th Central Postal Directory Battalion is finally deployed, but the conditions of their journey and arrival make it clear that they are not being treated as equals. The battalion crosses the stormy North Atlantic aboard the Isle de France, a massive ocean liner repurposed for war transport. However, unlike many other military units, they travel without a naval escort. This means if a German U-boat attacks, they have no protection. If disaster strikes, they are on their own, and if they die, no one in command seems to care. This decision by the military highlights how little value was placed on their lives. Black women in the army were seen as expendable, their safety not considered a priority. The war effort desperately needed soldiers, yet these women were sent into danger without the same precautions given to white troops. Their survival of this journey is not just luck, it is a testament to their strength, resilience, and determination to prove their worth. When the battalion arrives in Glasgow, Scotland, they do not receive a warm welcome. Instead, they come face to face with General Holt, a high-ranking officer who sees them as an inconvenience rather than an asset. General Holt's actions make his racism clear. He refuses to acknowledge their abilities or purpose. He assigns them to a freezing, rat-infested boarding school as their barracks. He gives them an impossible mission, clearing a 2-year backlog of 17 million undelivered letters in just 6 months. This moment is about more than just cruelty. It is about setting them up to fail. But instead of breaking under pressure, the 6,888 sees this challenge as an opportunity to prove themselves. During World War II, many black soldiers supported the Double Victory campaign, which meant victory abroad against the Axis powers, victory at home against racism and discrimination. The 6,888 represents this dual fight. They have signed up to serve their country, but their country does not respect them. They are willing to risk their lives, but their contributions are dismissed before they even begin. They are fighting a war, but they must also fight for their right to be seen as equals. The 6,888 refuses to be defeated by the obstacles placed before them. Instead of complaining about their situation, they take action, proving that they are just as capable as any other military unit. Despite arriving at a cold, rat-infested boarding school, the women quickly transform it into something functional. They clean the rooms, removing debris and chasing out rodents. They set up an efficient mail sorting system, turning the school into a fully operational post office. They create a sense of home, decorating their sleeping quarters and finding small ways to bring comfort into their harsh environment. This transformation is symbolic of their resilience. Where the army saw waste, they created order. Where others saw failure, they built success. But the mission is not just about organization. It is about reuniting people with their loved ones. At first, the women focus on sorting letters as quickly as possible, determined to meet their impossible 6-month deadline. But as they sift through mountains of forgotten words, the emotional reality of their task begins to set in. One day, Lena witnesses soldiers carelessly tossing dog tags into a pile, some scratched, others bent, all representing lives lost. It dawns on her that each letter they hold is more than just ink on paper. It is a message that might never reach its recipient. Some letters were sent by soldiers who have since died. Some letters were meant for loved ones who will never know what happened, and some families are waiting for news that will never come. Lena's pain is personal. Abram was one of those soldiers. She breaks down, realizing that if letters could be lost so easily, then so could a person's memory, their final words, their very existence. After witnessing Lena's distress, Major Adams and the others fully grasp the weight of their work. This is not just a military assignment. It is about bringing closure to families. The letters in their hands are the last connections between soldiers and their loved ones. Their job is no longer just delivering mail. It is about giving people hope. From this moment on, the battalion is not just fighting against time. They are fighting for the dignity of every soldier who wrote a letter in love, hope, or fear. Even as the 6,888th Battalion works tirelessly to complete their mission, they continue to face racism and resistance from the very institution they serve. Instead of recognizing their achievements, the Army doubts, criticizes, and undermines them at every turn. White officers question their work, finding fault in their methods instead of acknowledging their efficiency. They demand explanations for the slow progress, ignoring the overwhelming volume of mail. They second-guess the women's organizational system, despite it being faster and more effective than previous attempts. And they refuse to acknowledge the real challenges that make the job harder. The women patiently explain why delays happen. Soldiers constantly relocate, meaning letters must be rerouted repeatedly. Rats infest the storage rooms, chewing through letters and destroying their contents. Mold and water damage erase addresses, making it nearly impossible to determine the intended recipient. Instead of offering solutions or support, the Army remains hostile and dismissive, proving that their issue isn't with efficiency, it's with who is doing the work. Following President Roosevelt's death, General Halt, who has always wanted to see the 6888 fail, finds a new way to break them down. He sends a chaplain to spy on them, disguising it as a spiritual visit. However, instead of offering comfort, the chaplain delivers a deeply racist sermon. He questions Captain Adams' leadership, suggesting she is not fit for command. He implies that black women should focus on servitude, not military leadership. And he uses religion as a tool of oppression, twisting faith to justify discrimination. Rather than backing down, Captain Charity Adams takes a stand. She expels the chaplain, making it clear that neither she nor her battalion will tolerate such blatant disrespect. This moment is a powerful act of defiance. Adams does not allow an authority figure, especially one using faith as a weapon, to undermine their mission. The 6,888th Battalion has faced constant challenges: racism, impossible expectations, and sabotage, but nothing prepares them for the deep personal loss they experience next. While trying to deliver mail near a war-torn area, 2 women from the battalion are caught in an explosion from an undetonated bomb. Their deaths send shockwaves through the unit. They were not on the front lines, yet the war still found a way to take them. Their deaths highlight the dangers they faced, despite being dismissed as just a male unit. The Army barely acknowledges their sacrifice, reinforcing how black women's contributions were often overlooked, even in death. The battalion comes together in mourning, but their grief is also mixed with anger. They have given everything to this mission, yet their service is still met with disrespect and indifference. During the funeral for the fallen soldiers, Lena slips away to visit Abram's grave. She has carried his memory with her throughout the war, but she has never fully allowed herself to face her own grief. While there, she finally opens the letter he wrote to her before he died, one that had been lost in the mountain of undelivered mail. His words are simple but profound. He tells her not to let grief consume her. He urges her to live a long, fulfilling life, as he reminds her that love doesn't die with war. It carries on in those left behind. For Lena, this moment is life-changing. She realizes that she has spent so much time fighting, grieving, and proving herself that she has forgotten to live. Reading Abram's letter becomes her turning point. It doesn't erase her pain, but it allows her to finally start healing. After months of relentless work, personal losses, and constant obstacles, the 6888 is finally on the verge of completing their mission. But their biggest challenge still awaits: General Halt's last attempt to break them. One morning, General Halt storms into the facility without warning, determined to undermine the battalion's progress. He walks through the workstations, nitpicking everything. Despite the remarkable efficiency and organization of the women, he refuses to acknowledge their success, instead focusing on minor flaws to justify his racist agenda. His true purpose becomes clear when he publicly demands Captain Charity Adams' resignation, declaring that the unit will now be led by a white male officer. This is not just an attack on Adams. It's an attempt to erase the hard work, leadership, and achievements of the entire 6,888th Battalion. For a moment, the room falls silent. The women hold their breath, waiting for Adams' response. Then, in a voice that is calm but unwavering, she delivers her answer.
Over my dead body, sir. What did you say?
It's a statement of absolute defiance, a line she refuses to let him cross. She knows the risks of speaking out against a high-ranking officer. She knows the army has the power to punish her. But she also knows that if she steps down, everything they fought for will be lost. Her words echo through the room, and for the first time, General Halt looks genuinely taken aback. He expected submission, not resistance. As the tension lingers in the air, something extraordinary happens. The women stand in silent solidarity. They say nothing, but their presence speaks volumes. Their united front sends a clear message. They will not be intimidated, divided, or controlled. Moments later, the battalion erupts into a thunderous ovation, cheering for Adams, not just as their commander, but as a symbol of their shared strength. After months of relentless work, discrimination, and personal sacrifice, the 6,888th Battalion defies all expectations. Despite impossible deadlines, harsh conditions, and institutional racism, they clear the entire backlog of 17 million letters in just 90 days, half the time they were given. This moment isn't just about efficiency. It's about proving their worth in a system that tried to erase them. Their dedication never wavers, even as their work remains largely unrecognized. When the war ends, the women of the 6,888 return to the U.S. expecting recognition. Instead, they are met with silence. No parades, no medals, no official honors. For years, their groundbreaking contributions remain hidden from public memory. Many of these trailblazing women fade into history, forced to resume their lives without acknowledgement of their sacrifices. And then, decades later, justice finally arrives. In 2021, the women of the 6,888 received the Congressional Gold Medal, one of the highest honors in the U.S. In 2023, Fort Lee is renamed Fort Gregg Adams in honor of Charity Adams, ensuring that her name and leadership live on. The film's final scene depicts a ceremony overseen by Michelle Obama, where surviving members, or their families, are finally honored for their service. As an elderly Lena watches the ceremony, she smiles, not just for herself, but for all the women who never lived to see this day. The 6,888 is more than just a war movie. It is a story about strength, discrimination, and the courage of Black women who refuse to be ignored. History may have tried to forget them, but their contribution will live on forever. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.